Okay, hello everybody. I am so happy you are here. I am Daniel Aaron, and welcome to the Vibration of Vibrancy. How to raise your vibration. And I'm so excited that you're here, grateful that you're here, because you are somebody obviously who is motivated and interested. You've taken some time today to invest into your own frequency, and that's what makes a difference on this planet. Now, enough said. Hey, let's dive right in. I've got a lot to share with you. So I'm going to go quickly, though, remember, and please know, you are an absolute genius with a photographic memory. So that means you are getting all of it like that. All right. So without further ado, let us go to slideshow. And now I will be if you're not used to this format, by the way, you can see me over there in the corner somewhere of your screen. And this is really, if we were to make it super simple, about one thing. And that one thing is, it is all about your tuning. Now, I must tell you, I am ancient. And I imagine many of you tuning in to this broadcast, this masterclass right now, may not realize what is on your screen. That is old school stereo. And the way it worked, kids, let me tell you, in the old days, is you tuned a little knob, and that would get the frequency to just the right station, where you would get pop music, or you would get classical music, or you would get a news show. Right? All of that is always available, and that's exactly how it works for us. Super simple, right? The thing is, simple isn't always easy. So we will get to that. Now, if you tune in, is there a channel? Is there a frequency out there for anger and overwhelm, for feeling like this guy is looking right now? Yeah, for sure. There is all of it there. There's fear and worry and blame and scarcity and doubt and overwhelm and blame and shame and stress. Whoa, I'm exhausted. Hold on. Do you know in your heart, like wide open for sure, that anything is possible? Have you heard that and yet it resonated? Have you had some experience of that? Have teachers shared that with you and you believe it, you know it somehow? And yet your life is not fully what you would wish it to be? You're not alone in that, of course. Here's the thing, y'all. We are told in direct and indirect ways, it's all over the place in the messaging that comes to us in the spiritual and new age community, that if we become spiritual, spirituality leads to a gorgeous, perfect body that takes no effort to maintain, wonderful, perfect, beautiful, high vibe, elevated relationships, plenty of money, as much as we ever need, because we are free, we are at a high vibe, we have a career, a vocation, a calling that feeds our soul, and perhaps most importantly, there is this sense of congruency, which means that how we feel on the inside, our spiritual values, are the same as how our life is showing up, and our relationships and the people and all of these categories: body, money, career. It's the same inside and outside. There's a consistency. Thing is, it doesn't work that way. It's not that if you sign an oath or you recite a mantra or you get conferred a spiritual name that suddenly you get all of that just the way you would imagine and wish for and hope for. No, there's a little more to it. Don't worry though, because that's what we are here for today. Before we get there though, horse news. Sorry. We have also been told that if we meditate consistently, that lights will come, that we will see auras, that all that we wish for will manifest in front of us, and we will be a shining beam of light all the time. Alas, though, it's not like that. So, a little bit more. Can you handle it on top of disappointment? Right? Then there is, do you know who those little guys are over there? They are incredibles. My 12-year-old daughter took us to what's it called, Universal Studios last year, and I learned that for the first time. And they are showing imposter syndrome, and that is when we don't have that congruency. And I see this all the time, right? I'm a coach and a teacher for 25 years, and I see it all the time where people want to teach, or they are teaching, they want to coach, they want to work with people in some way, yet on the inside they feel like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not really true enough, I'm not spiritual enough to be doing this. All right, hold on. What if we were really close? What if you've actually been working this puzzle very well for a long time and you're super close? Well, here's the good news. It is indeed time to finish that puzzle, to put the pieces together, to get your reds and blues and greens all on the same side. So this, what we are going into deeper now, is for you if you are a spiritual seeker after something like we might call enlightenment, or a healer, light worker, energy worker, therapist, coach, of any word. If you're a spiritual entrepreneur, meaning that you have a business or would like to have a business, that's called a spiritual wantrepreneur, who is bringing your spiritual ideals, values, what you've learned, what you feel into your work, into your business. That's a spiritual entrepreneur. Or if you, like I have been most of my life, a personal and spiritual growth junkie, if you've taken many courses and trainings and somehow you feel like there's still something missing, well, and you know there is more, you are in the right place. And yes, buckle up, because it is time for us to take off to fly. And here's the one thing I most highly recommend for you for the rest of our time together, which will fly, right by, is don't multitask. Stay with me, get present here, have some notes if you like ready at hand, and turn off your phone, turn off distractions, tell your children to eat as many cookies as, no, I'm just kidding. Stay with me, be present here, right? Turn on your do not disturb, airplane mode. All right, so quick little bit, DA stands for Dan Uron, quick as I can bit about me. So get a sense of why what I have to share with you might be worth paying attention to, why it might be valuable to you. 3 stages of my life up till this point. And number 1 was I grew up in the United States of America and following the standard American diet, which, yes, was very sad. And I mean the diet of what I physically ate, yes, and I'll tell you about that, but also what I consumed in terms of beliefs and thought forms and media, and for my family and religion and the government, all of that told me about who I am and how the world works. And I started out okay, fairly cute maybe, and then pretty soon I got to be this teenager who was really unhappy, fat, shy, depressed, yeah, not a nice life at all. But then a key moment happened for me. And that was, I was about 4 years old. I was out in the front yard of my family's home in Falmouth, Foreside, Maine. And inside the house is like what was going on here in this image right here. These guys yelling and screaming at each other. It was like a battle zone in my home all the time. Everybody yelling at each other, throwing things. It was, so that's why I was outside. But when I was outside, I saw my neighbors running to their cars or slump-shouldered walking around. And I thought to myself, there's got to be more to life than this. This can't be it. And then I got busy with, surviving childhood. I did my best with that fat, shy, depressed kid that I was. Until then, I got out of my family home. I got to college. I studied philosophy, religion, English, and I was trying to be practical at that point in my life. And I said, that's a good pre-law major. But then I was never into religion. I was always seeking meaning. And then in college, I learned about psychedelics. Well, and that soon became the end of my pre-law career. I started following around the Grateful Dead, selling hippie gear to people, right? And then car crash. That's that hole there. That's where my face hit the windshield. And that's what I looked like right after the car crash. And that was a big wake-up call to me. Right? After the wake-up call, I thought, all right, I better figure some stuff out. I better get myself together. Maybe I'll go back to school and get a PhD in philosophy. I love ethics. That's the thing. I'm going to go deeper into that. But then at the last minute, I realized, wait a minute. In philosophy, what do? We divide. That's a division symbol there in case it's not obvious. We divide things, meaning we take things apart. We analyze, we break them into their components. Ivory towers, what you could call mental masturbation. Now, nothing wrong with it, and it can feel good and it can be entertaining, and I love what I learned in philosophy school. Thing is, and I don't know how I knew it at this moment because I had got nowhere near spirituality or yoga, though I realized that actually what I'm interested in is putting things together. And as you probably know, the meaning of the word yoga is union. So that led me up to the next part, which kicked off with bing, what you might call a Kundalini awakening. I didn't know what that meant. I had no words for that. This was, I was in my mid-20s and I was blown open. And I didn't use the word God. I was not comfortable with it at all. I did have hair on my head. I let it grow then. And what happened was kind of like this. It was like God grabbed me by the hair, lifted my head up and said, look, man, there is more to life than you have been seeing. Completely screwed me up. I went crazy in many ways. I got really depressed after that because I had seen this potential. I had experienced union. I'd seen the potential for myself and for the world. And it was really depressing because I did not know how to live that, let alone, and I had no interest at this point in sharing it with others or teaching people. I just realized that I couldn't go back where I had been. I'd seen too much. So when I came out of the depression, you might say that's when the path began. And the path began in an obsessive way. I moved to a mega institute. I started traveling around the country in an RV just to go to ashrams and teachers. I got into yoga and got obsessed with it. I moved to Esalen Institute and lived there too. I went to Humaniversity in Holland, another ashram center therapy university. Then I met up with my friend David Wolf and we started traveling around the world together teaching raw food workshops. And I was, no kidding, a spiritual and personal growth junkie. I did everything that you can imagine, anything that I thought would help me to wake up, to not be so in so much pain or fucked up, to somehow be able to realize what I had seen. From yoga teacher trainings to transpersonal psychology, transformational breath, shiatsu, whatever, all of that, and more. Dance kinetics trainings, astrology, gestalt therapy, writing workshops, shiatsu. I went for everything I could, and that's not a complete list. Around this time, and I was well into my 30s at this point, my mother said, Danny, she still called me that, when are you going to get a real job? And by this point, I was happy I had an answer. I didn't put it in these terms. I didn't know these terms yet. Abraham Lincoln said, if I had 2 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first sharpening my saw. And what that means in our context is, as within, so without. Everything in our life, and you know this, you wouldn't be here if you didn't, everything in our life comes from our own inner vibration. And I knew at that point, and I could say to my mom, I need to get clear in myself. That's the most important thing, right? And that led me to stage 3. A single moment changed everything for me. I had not lived for more than a year in a place. In nearly 20 years, I'd been on this path. And then one day, I got the message, time to be in one place, time to teach consistently and stop moving, time to work on writing again. And then, where's that place? I'd never been there, but yes, I moved to Bali. And with 2 suitcases with the intention of staying there, not knowing how it would work out. Amazingly, I hadn't even planned on teaching. I thought I'd just offer a class or 2 here and there. And suddenly, it took off, right? I was teaching, people were coming, I was doing talks. Things were going fantastic. They were going so good that I thought, well, let's take it further. Let's create yoga teacher training, raw chef training, leadership training, right? And those grew like a snowball rolling downhill as well. And over here, I'm going to share with you a little bit about some of the people that I love and respect who have been with me, who have applied the learnings, who have implemented this that I'm sharing with you and made a real difference in their lives. And these two folks here, smiley folks, that's Ben and Sayuri. They were two of the original chefs on my raw chef training, which supported the yoga teacher training. And each of them has gone on to create their own chef trainings. Each of them has gone on to create their own restaurants. They are icons. They're beautiful people doing amazing work, right? Down here is Tara, who is just an amazing woman who came to one of our trainings, now is in Sri Lanka, a dream of hers to go there and teach and be sharing with more and more people. From that, we created a yoga center, and you can see me there standing in what became the recycled wood main room of it. And in all that time, the main thing I learned, many, many years, so blessed to serve and work with massive groups, with amazing people who were so dedicated. What I learned most was the art of transformation, what it takes, what works, what doesn't work, what processes are effective but not so effective, what processes really go, how people work, what are the patterns inside ourselves that lead to struggle and repetition of the old cycles. How do we break those patterns, and how do we install new beliefs and new patterns to create what we want in our lives, right? Up there, the two folks you see, Alexia and James, they both came to trainings. Alexia now has opened her own center in Vienna, an incredible teacher and chocolate maker. James actually was one of my lead trainers back in Bali and now runs the yoga teacher trainings from the center that I sold back there. And there's Jamie Louise, an incredible woman who started an amazing raw restaurant in Brisbane, Australia. Well, here we are now, because that was about 2 years ago that I sold Radiantly Live. I let go of that company. I let go of Bali. And it was time for my daughter and I, she was 9 at the time, to create a new life, to move. And we came here to the land of Aloha, to Maui. And this is where I work from and teach from, mostly in this sphere now, in the online sphere. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. There she is. All right. Now, so we go next level deeper into what you are here for today. The overview is this: 3 main points for you. The most powerful why of all. And the why, I mean, as in why this is important, why it's not enough just to wish and imagine, why we want to learn what's required and do what's required to consistently be raising our vibration. It's called entrainment. I'll explain it in a moment. And number 2, you've got to do the miles. I'll tell you where that phrase comes from soon. It means you have to train for success. It's not going to happen randomly for 99.99% of the world. There is a methodology to it, and it takes our training. And then the last, vibration. Music is vibration, and every orchestra needs a conductor to create beautiful music. This is the magic of mentoring. All right, now, number 1, entrainment. It's the law. You know this law already, even if you don't know it by name. It's something that works like this. In a clock shop, old school, right, with the pendulums, they swing, and if sooner or later they will, even if they're off at first, they will come to the same alignment. Women living in a dormitory together, they will align to the same menstrual cycle. An opera singer knows how to hit just the right pitch that will shatter a crystal. That's all because the law is this: any 2 bodies in proximity, and bodies can be things, thoughts, ideas, people, have a vibration. And those vibrations, when they come into connection, will align to the same vibration. It's happening right now, right? That's part of what I am attempting to do here, is share this information, this energy in a way that helps you to lift up. And we, even though, and this is the miracle of how technology is catching up to spirituality, and science is also catching up, we'll get to that in a moment, even though we're not in the same place right now, we are connected. Absolutely. Our vibrations are aligning. Okay. And this is happening with every single thing in our life. Entrainment is a fundamental law. Now, I'm so excited about this, y'all. The new science, it's not that new anymore, of quantum physics, right? Replacing in some way or overcoming, giving us an alternative perspective to Newtonian physics. For years, as obsessed as I was with spirituality, right, so devoted to my practices and teachers and teachings, I was like this to the science aspect. And even when What the Belief came out years ago, I saw it and I was like, yeah, that's cool. But I didn't go deeper into it then. And it was really, for me, only a few years ago when something clicked that I realized, whoa. And I got obsessed with quantum physics, with brain science, with epigenetics, with neurology, all of this, like the science of how transformation works, the science of how reality works. And one of the things most important about quantum physics is the principle of entanglement, which is what I just shared with you a moment, which means that any two bodies, things that are connected, will always be connected, even if they are very far away. We don't need to be connected in physical space. We don't even need to be connected in time for one body to be affecting the other. It is phenomenal. Now, and really what quantum physics is all about is what I shared with you at the very beginning, that it's all about our tuning. Part of what quantum physics says is, quite literally, gives a scientific explanation. And by the way, if you were like I was years ago and you're like, science, for me, it was kind of like, I'm not sure if I understand this. I'm not interested. Science is too rational. What's happening now, though, is science is becoming the new language of spirituality, the new language of the mystical. And part of what's beautiful about it is it's giving us a deeper understanding of what happens through spirituality, through our spiritual practices. And when that happens, the more we get a clear picture of how it works, the more effective we are in our practices, the more we get out of those practices. Okay? So, what is this, I ask you? This slide here. You're like, Daniel, you forgot to put a slide. No! There is a reason that this is a dark, vast, empty void. This is the field of infinite potential. The divine matrix, the void, it is everything is possible in this infinite darkness. And part of what quantum physics teaches us is that the old model of how physical reality is made up. Remember the old neutron, proton, and that? Well, what we've learned since then is actually, oh, it's getting a little windy here. Exciting. Something's happening. What we've learned actually is that matter, physical stuff, is mostly, like 99.999%, empty space. And that is really important when it comes to our spirituality and to what we want to create in our lives. Right? Now, this woman leaning against the glass here is extremely sorrowful, right? Life is hard for her. And part of what that means is, in the field of infinite potential, there is the possibility of feeling just like she is feeling in that moment. And there's also the possibility, the potential for feeling like that little girl's feeling, that level of joy and excitement with life. There is the potential for poverty, for depression. There is the potential for abundance, for creation, for manifestation. Always, at any point, available to us. And this depends a bit, largely, maybe entirely, on where our focus is. There's always something to complain about, right? Isn't there? Can you find something in your life right now? And there's always something to be grateful for. Abe, my buddy, or Peter Drucker, who I also appreciate a lot, said the best way to predict the future is to create it, right? What does that mean? And I was speaking to a client earlier today who said, I struggle with this because I feel like I'm supposed to be grateful for what I have and just accept that. So I feel like I'm not supposed to, want something else or try and create and make it different. Right? That was the mind speaking, and she came to see that. Because the truth is, yes, of course we want to be grateful for what is. And we are co-creators in this universe. We are here to make our lives what they can be, to make this planet what it can be. So, creating your vibrant life, what does it take? Again, it's super simple, right? Simple doesn't always mean easy. Yet, complexity often makes things more challenging. So, how does it work? Here's the simple formula. 1, clear intention. And you know this already, right? And in fact, there's much that you know that I'm sharing here. So please be listening for how you connect new neural pathways, how it lands in a different way. And of course, we're getting to the part where knowledge isn't what it's all about. It's the implementation of it. So the formula, once again, clear intention, meaning see what you want, right? In the positive, to get really specific about how you want to feel, what you want your life to be like. A lot of people don't do that. It's not enough, though. The second part of it, which is so underrated yet 50 times more powerful, exalted emotion. That means to feel, really feel, and even like role play, like get into it so much that we're smiling, and this might be in a meditative practice, smiling, tears running down our face because we feel it so much. Right? Now, gotta be honest here. That simple formula, right? Clear intention, exalted emotion. We are doing this all the time. Just for a lot of us, not on purpose, not intentionally. A lot of people are creating nightmares in their life, creating problems, creating pain, creating difficulty, because that's what their intention is. That's what they're seeing in their head, and they're experiencing that in themselves, anticipating a predictable future, reliving a painful past. All of that's happening, and they're now creating this kind of painful cycle. Negative thinking, painful emotion, negative thinking, painful emotion. Right? So that should be kind of a scary thing when I say that. We're doing this all the time. Right? Either we're doing it intentionally or we're doing it by accident, but it's happening. On the flip side, I hope it's also a super empowering thing to hear that, because as you realize this information, part of what that means is, oh, hey, let me take conscious control over that process. Let me make it a process that I am in charge of. All right, let's get a little deeper. Let's get real. Information is not transformation. Now, part of why I put this image up here is because when I was a kid, teenager, young adult, I was fat. And it was one of the worst things that I could imagine in my life. It was so painful. I mean, the abuse I got, the disability I had, the teasing I got from other kids, to have this great potential in sports yet not be able to realize it because I couldn't keep up with other kids. That was all painful. But I'll tell you, the worst pain for me was feeling like this thing was out of my control. I couldn't do anything about it. But not because I didn't have information. I knew, and it's not rocket surgery, right? Right? Eat less, exercise more, simple formula. And these days, there's so much even more specific information available on nutrition, on exercise, on really how to do it in phenomenal ways. None of us gets fat or stays fat because of a lack of information. Information is not enough. So, here is Ross Adams, one of my heroes. Ross came to me with a lot of anxiety, with depression. As you can see here, this is some of what he experienced. When he first came, he literally went to one of the restrooms, public bathrooms at the center where we were working at the time, and closed himself into the cubicle there, the what do you call it, the stall, and was crying, and he didn't want to go out. He didn't want anybody to see him. That's where he started with. And part of what I saw with Ross is, I mean, you could see, right? He's a beautiful guy. He's a good-looking guy, and he has done such amazing things. And of course, I saw that in him, but it didn't matter if I saw it because he didn't see it. So one of the first things we did with him, and this is how we take information into application, is we got him to wear a cape like Superman. And it was really awkward for him, right? Because he was noticeable. And two, part of what it did is instead of this, it brought his shoulders back like this, and he started to feel just a little bit like a superhero. And I talked to him just a couple weeks ago, and he shared with me, John Jesse, his newest baby, came just about 6 months ago, and that's Mariana, his wife. And he's doing amazing work as a teacher now, as a yoga therapist. They have an amazing family and relationship. Part of what Ross is a great example of is this, what a friend of mine said to me at one point. He said, Daniel, if you want to run a marathon, and I didn't, he did though. If you want to run a marathon, because I was saying to him, why do you run so much? He said, if you want to run a marathon, you got to do the miles. That means, this is our second big point here, you got to do the work. You got to train if you want to create a certain result in your life. Now, the biggest problem that I've seen over all these many years of working with people, helping people, is that what they say is there's not enough time, right? I would meditate, I would do yoga practice, I would move my body, but there's not enough time for that, right? And I think to myself, how could there not be enough time? And I love this Jackson Brown quotation. Don't say you don't have enough time. You have exactly the same number of hours per day that were given to Helen Keller, Louis Pasteur, Michelangelo, Mother Teresa, Leonardo da Vinci, Thomas Jefferson, and Albert Einstein, right? The only question really is, how do we prioritize our time? We know this. All right, let's come back to this because it's such a key point. And another of the most powerful reasons why you might call me a spiritual pragmatist, because what I'm really interested in, spirituality is great, right? And I love the philosophy. And what really matters is, does it work? Is it working in our lives? And see, we live in a dangerous age in many ways because so many people have learned these incredible teachings that for many years and thousands of years were secret. Because what's happened is that we learn these spiritual truths, right? And we create these high ideals and intentions, but then oftentimes we're not living it, right? And just literally last week I read, I was doing a little research about spiritual entrepreneurship, and somebody said that a spiritual entrepreneur is somebody who meditates or knows how to meditate. And I thought, you can't know how. That's not the same. That's not doing it. That's incongruence. That's saying one thing and doing another. And that rips us apart. It's so painful. So the real question, y'all, becomes this. Do you want to be a philosopher or an initiate, right? They're both great. The difference is a philosopher talks about things, analyzes, thinks about things. Fun. An initiate applies things, does things in their life, right? They actually do the work that's required. Now, the disaster of discipline. Let me tell you a little research story. I love this research study. So what this project did was they told the participants in the research study that they were going to come into a room. And so the people came into the room, and there were two plates there. On one of them was a bunch of cut up pieces of radish. On the other was freshly baked chocolate chip cookies that were still warm, and the smell was everywhere. And with some of the participants, they said, don't eat any of the cookies. With some of the participants, they said, have whatever you want, right? And the participants thought this was the whole research project. Well, it turns out that was only part one. Because what they did after that, part two, was they had them do a few little like word games and puzzles and things like this that took a certain amount of effort, attention, and focus. And what they found out, and it was really striking, is that the people that did not eat the chocolate chip cookies and they needed discipline, restraint, self-control, willpower to not eat those chocolate chip cookies, those people, when they got to stage 2 and started doing these puzzles and extras, they gave up really quickly compared to the people that did not exhaust their self-control, discipline, and willpower in the first part. The people that did whatever they want, ate whatever they want, when they got to the second part, they still have, and what we learned is that willpower, discipline, self-control, it is exhaustible. We only get a certain amount, and like a rubber band, it'll spring back on us. So here's what I got for you. Dump discipline. Get out of the disaster of discipline. And the biggest way we do that is, 1, understanding how transformation works. We're going a step deeper into that. And 2, going back to our first point, having that why. Why are we doing this work? What is the point of it? Entrainment, incongruence, tuning. These are all the reasons why we need to actually do the work of raising our vibration. So why is it so hard? All right, you've done it, right? And I'm guessing if you're here on this in this class right now, you've tried, right? And you've probably tried time and time again, and maybe you've had some success, but you haven't had all the success you want. So why is it so challenging to change? All right, that image, in case you don't know it, is of a thermostat. And a thermostat is a great way of explaining how transformation works. So how does a thermostat work? Super simple to say. Set it for 70 degrees. I'm in North America at the moment. And that means the thermostat is going to try and keep the temperature in the air to about 70 degrees. So if it's winter time and the heater is on, it will heat the room up to 70, and then it will go up to 71 and 72. And when it gets to 73, the thermostat will click on and say, hey, furnace, time to turn off. It's getting too hot. The furnace will turn off, and then gradually it will go from 73 to 2, 71, 70, 69, 67, and then the thermostat will click again, and it will say to the furnace, turn on, it's getting too cold. And so that's the game that will go on with the furnace and the thermostat all the time. And that's exactly how we work, because we have at least 2 parts to us. On the one hand, we've got a human animal part, sometimes called ego, the survival part of ourself. And this part is looking for one thing only, and that is to take care of itself, to survive. It is not interested in change, in transformation, doesn't want anything to be different, because anything different could be painful and that could result in death. This is the unconscious thinking of the human animal ego part of ourselves. Then we've got the human spirit part of ourselves. And the human spirit part of ourselves, right, is eternal. And it loves transformation. It loves adventure. It's not worried about anything changing because it knows that we are infinite beings. This is where Teilhard de Chardin said, we are not human beings here having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings here on earth in 3D having a physical experience. So let's take it a step deeper. Y'all with me? Do you need to take a big breath in right now? And stay with me, stay up. Whereas not a lot longer, though. We're getting to the most juicy, the juiciest stuff, the most important stuff here. And I created this very intricately drawn picture for you, a little graph, and don't freak out. I'm going to explain it. It's really easy. So the way this graph works is on this plane here is energy, what we might call amplitude, or yes, vibration. On this one is linear time. Okay. And the way it works is we all have, like I said, a vibrational set point. And actually, no, I'll explain that a tiny bit more, because how a vibrational set point works is we all have a certain level of happiness. We all have a certain level of health. We all have a certain level of wealth. And the way it works in our lives, and you remember the thermostat effect, is we're cruising along and we have a set point, right? and then something great happens, right? We win the lottery, or the person we want to marry says yes, or something happens, and whew, we go up. But then within a few days or weeks, we come back down because we have to regulate back to that set point. And the same is true if we're cruising through our life and something really horrible happens. You know, we get in a car accident, the person that said yes now says no, whatever it is, then we drop down and we feel horrible. And then pretty soon, in a matter of days or weeks, we come back up to that same level. So what does that mean for us? In this situation, right, we are cruising through life, and then an event happens, right? And in this case, say it's a rough event, a bad event, an event that produces, and the end result of any event is an emotion. It produces an emotion like anger or pain. We install some new beliefs because of that event. We make some decisions from that event. And then sure, we go back down here, but now we are changed. We've installed some negative beliefs, some blockages. And unless we are able to somehow overcome that amplitude right there, where that belief system was set into place, we are going to cruise through our life in the same way we've been doing things. Change becomes really hard. And we can do all of the intentions and affirmations and wishes we want, right? And they're not going to really make much difference unless we create enough energy, enough vibration, enough amplitude, right, to rise above this level and change that pattern from the past. Then we can do it one way by making a powerful enough decision. And you've seen this. It happens very rarely, but once in a while someone says, that's it. I will never have that happen again. I am changing my life. And they make such a clear decision that that decision gets to an amplitude up here that overcomes all those patterns and structures from the past. More often, though, it's a matter of using breath and emotion to consistently raise our energy up, consistently raise our energy up, and to do it over and over again until we overcome that imprint, that pattern from the past. Now, here's another one of my heroes, Melissa. Hey, come back here. Melissa, amazing woman. She came to my yoga teacher training some years ago. And something that was really fun at the time we did is I said, you know what, let's make a contest just for fun. Let's stir up some energy and see what happens. And let's give one free scholarship, fully expense paid scholarship, to the person that creates a video and shows us that they are going to take this learning, this training, and bring it out into the world and help the world, right? Because for me, that's what it's all about. That's what I want my work to do. And I love what Melissa said here about her experience. I grappled with that voice that says I'm not good enough, that I don't deserve this, that I somehow trick people into believing that I'm more capable than I am. Right now, check it out. Right? That's what she said. And right here. Right? So she said, I grapple with that voice that says I'm not good enough, that I don't deserve it. That voice, right? That's from this event. That's where it got locked in. That's where that voice came from. I don't know, the specific in her life. We don't need to talk about that part. What we know is that she did the work consistently. She applied herself and she overcame that event and the imprint of it. And now, right, she's a professional writer and photographer. When I spoke to her last a few months ago, she was on her way to India to do some work in an orphanage there, right? She's really doing what she promised. All right, another breath. Are you ready for it? Number 3 point here. The orchestra needs a conductor, right? So what happens literally in an orchestra, right? And I was in a symphonic band in high school and college when I started college. When we walk into the room, right, all the musicians sit down, they get out their instruments, they start playing, they start maybe tuning their instruments up. Everybody's playing something different. It's cacophonous, it's noise, right? It's loud, it's obnoxious. And then at a certain point, the conductor comes in and he says, right? And when he does that, or she does that, everybody in the orchestra comes to attention. All their focus comes together. What do? They entrain, right? The conductor entrains them, right? they align all of those individual vibrations to one vibration. Without doing that, there's not music. When they do that well, that's why we love music so much. Now, two of my most beloved heroes here, you no doubt will recognize Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. And they are two men that knew about entrainment, and they applied this word sat and sangha, right? Satsang from Sanskrit means a gathering of people in the name of truth. And part of what they knew was to make a difference in their causes. They had to bring people together. They had to align people. They had to entrain people. And whenever two or more come together, this is the way Jesus said it, when two or more gather in my name, then I will be there. So even now, us tuning in together with the intention to raise our vibration and use that to affect the planet in a positive way, that's powerful, right? We are aligning and raising our vibration right now. This is the same thing that happens at a musical event, right? Why so many people get in tune and there can be such a wonderful experience at a concert is the band, when they are really in sync, really in the groove, they are transmitting that out to everyone. And again, we live in such an exciting age, y'all, where science is doing such powerful stuff. Heart Math Institute has been at work on this for a long time. And they really coined this expression, coherence. And what coherence means, it's like the word I used before, congruency. Coherence is when disparate vibrations align. And specifically, and the reason they have their name, Heart Math, is what they've realized is if we can get the vibration of our brain waves to match our heart, then we drop into what could be called the flow state or the zone. We drop into a resourceful place that is powerful, that feels good, and which affects the planet in positive ways. Right? And what part of what Heart Math has shown and teaches is that, yes, we can create individual coherence, and that's important, getting coherence between our brain and our heart. And it can be done, y'all, so simply, literally breathing with your attention on your heart for just 2 minutes, and it will happen. Right? Beyond that, though, there is group coherence, and we know about that. That's what we're doing here now. That's what our friends in the last slide were doing, Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr., aligning a group to a common vibration. And then there is world coherence, and that's what it's really about, right? And they've done some amazing work studying this, and they actually have, I think it's 9 different measuring towers around the world to measure the consciousness of a region. And specifically when we do world meditations or world events intending to raise vibration, it is measurable and notable. There's incredible potential in this for us right now, right? So take it a little bit further. Y'all know, I'm sure, these ladies here, right? Mentoring is the transmission from one person to another, right? The helping, the teaching of another, from someone who has experience, who's struggled with things, who's learned things, who's overcome things, to help someone else so they don't have to do all that same hard work, or they can learn from the mentor. So Maya Angelou was a mentor for Oprah Winfrey, right? Now, you probably know these guys, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, one to the other. Profound impact on our world through their mentoring relationship. Now, in neurolinguistic programming, NLP, very similar, it's called modeling. And that's where we pay attention to the way someone else does things, the success they've created, and model ourselves after them in some way, right? Just like Ralph Waldo Emerson was a model mentor for Henry David Thoreau. Now, specific thing here. Ernest Hemingway, all right, and one of the things I do is I'm a writer, and I love Hemingway's writing. And he said, we'll come into this more, he said, if you want to be a writer, only read the best quality writing, right? Because that's what you are attuning to and training to. Now, Hemingway was an incredible writer, so I take him as a role model for me for writing. And when it comes to mental health, He is not my role model, right? He did not do so well in terms of happiness, health, and wisdom in his life on that level. So we get to choose. This is a beautiful thing, right? One of the keys for creating our vibrant life is having discernment, right? Now, we all know the truth of you are what you eat, yes? And yes, that's true physically, or sometimes it's known as you are what you don't poop. In any case, it also goes beyond what we consume with our food. It's what we consume with our reading, what we consume with the media that we watch or listen into, and the people that we hang out with. So, are we attuning to and training to a standard American diet, which can be sad? Or do we learn from what Jim Rohn, one of my teachers, said? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. How discerning are we about who is influencing our vibration? So what it comes down to, y'all, right, and we are near our conclusion, so hang in there for a little bit more. We're getting to the last part that you will appreciate. I am confident. The only real investment in life that we know pays off is in ourselves. We've got 2 hours to sharpen the axe. 2 hours to chop down a tree. The first hour is sharpening our axe, investing in ourselves and our own vibration. Now, money is one way, of course, that you can invest in your vibration courses, trainings, and stuff like that, right? And I've done that because I've been obsessed with this. This is my life and this is my work. And I literally have invested, I counted recently, over $500,000 in personal and spiritual development. And I don't say that to impress you. I say that to impress upon you how important it is to me. And I hope that you learn something from that for you in your way. And there are many ways that you can invest in your frequency, right? One is learning. That's part of why you're here now and what you're doing. And there's so many opportunities for that in our modern age, right? Another, which is key, is practice. Practice creating our life. Practice creating the emotion. Practice creating the vibration we want. And I don't mean practice as in just go through the motions, or occasionally, I mean effective practice and consistent practice. Another really powerful way to invest in your vibrant life is to have a mentor, to have mentoring relationships. And for some of us, to be mentors helps us to grow to the next level too. Now, you remember hearing practice makes perfect? Yuck, what an awful suggestion. There is no perfect, just like there's no enlightenment. There is progress, there is growth. That's what life is all about. Practice makes progress even better, because happiness can be defined as progress towards something that's meaningful to you. Now, why I am here, why I'm sharing this with you, why I'm so grateful for you being here is, as you see, my mission is to create our whole world living the vibration of vibrancy. All of us, every being in this world. And if not us to create that, then who? And if not us to do that now, when? Right? A couple more of my heroes here to share with you. The top quotation there from Marianne Bailey. She is an incredibly resilient woman. And I'll tell you, when she first came to train with me, I thought, I don't think she's going to make it. She was so sensitive. Everything was just really intense for her. And somehow she stayed with it. And I spoke to her also just a few weeks ago. She is currently getting government funding in the UK for a project called Project Revolution. And it's on its way to being the world's first entirely solar-powered car. Really tremendous work she's doing. Right? And I'm not going to, share all of these stories with you. I want to keep us moving forward. There are, I have literally hundreds of stories like this of people that I just love and respect so much for what they have created. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have helped them. One more I'll share with you, though. This woman up here with the piercing blue eyes looking at us, Julianne Mills. When she came to me, she's an amazing psychic, empath, healer, energy worker. And she came to me, and she didn't believe in her own abilities. In some ways, she had that imposter syndrome thing happening. And she's amazing. It was actually just a little bit of work, and she has become such an amazing light worker and energy worker, psychic, for want of a better name. I'm so impressed with how she has created that congruency in herself. And then, all right, last little story I'll tell you. I don't have a picture of this woman to show you because she's a bit of a famous person, and I want her to keep her privacy. So we'll call her Agnes. And she came to me just about a year ago. And she had no experience with spirituality, no meditation experience at all. She wasn't interested in that, but she came to me because she had had a series of synchronicities, which you may know is part of how the universe gets our attention, tells us we're on track. And she was getting the message that she had to do something with it. She had a calling, and she didn't know what it was. So in our work together, we started working with the technology that I've shared with you. And she was really doing the work in a beautiful way and getting herself into some deep states. And through that work, she created some amazing results of that calling coming to her. Right? And it was so impressive. I was just really touched and impressed. I said to her one day, Agnes, you need to amplify this gift. You need to take it to another level. She's like, okay. I said, and here's what you're going to do. You're going to use this technology, this manifestation, to create something in your life that doesn't really matter. And she's like, what? Why? I said, because it's practicing this gift. And if you can do it on things that don't matter, you can do it more easily on things that do matter, right? It's part of the training. So she was a little reluctant, but she said, okay. So, and that was the end of our conversation. I didn't talk to her until a week later. A week later, she says, okay, here's what happened. After we talked, I said, okay. So the next day in my practice, I just created an intention for somebody sending flowers to me, right? Not crazy impossible, but it happens very rarely. It's not a holiday. There's no reason why I would be getting flowers. Okay, so she did the process. Clear intention, elevated emotion. One day goes by, no flowers. Second day goes by, no flowers. Third day begins, and she says, maybe I need to change that intention a little bit and make it so somebody near me gets flowers, right? As if the universe can't find her, as if the universe isn't that powerful. But I understand her perspective on it. So later that same day, she is in the radio station, and she's just finishing her broadcast. And she's there in the booth, and there's the glass in the booth. And so she's finishing up. She's kind of aware of what's going on out there. She sees her coworker out there, and he's like on the phone, and he goes down to the reception area, and he comes back up, and he comes back up with this huge bouquet of flowers. And she's in there, and already the tears are pouring down her face because she knows. And sure enough, these flowers were sent to her. Amazing, right? And there is sort of a logical thing. They were sent by someone who she'd promised to do an interview for like a month and a half earlier. And then it got messed up, and they felt badly, so they sent her flowers. But they've never done that. No one's done anything like that. And it was a month and a half before. When she told me that, I started crying. I was just so touched by her and her endeavors and her trust, and even more so by the mysterious magnificence of the universe. So y'all, we are coming to our conclusion. There is no coherence in solo. So I've got something for you. If you are motivated, if you would like to be living the vibration of vibrancy and want to raise your vibration, then let's connect. There's the URL there. And what I mean by that is, right, it's danielaaron.com/apply. And this is not an offer for everyone, so let me clarify a little bit. It is not for those who are spiritual bypassers, victims, complainers, avoiders, for people who just want to go on their own or do it the hard way. Totally fine. More power to you. If anyone feels like they've already got everything and they don't want anything more, then this is really not an offer for you. What it is a breakthrough strategy session to help you get more clarity, power, and results in your life now. Now, truth is this: there are many people here watching, right? And me and my team, who I'm personally trained, are really excited to meet you and serve you. And we have cleared space on our calendars for the next few days, right? And there are only a few of us, and there are a lot of you. So if you really want this, please only do it if you are ready and committed to take your life to the next level now. If you're ready to go for it, to transform, if you're motivated, then we want to talk with you. If you're kind of whatever, then just leave it for somebody else, right? There's no cost and no obligation. Why am I doing it? Real simple. The mission I have, where the entire planet, all beings are living at that level of vibrancy. To accomplish that mission, I'm not going to be able to do it on my own. We need more and more people who are rising up their frequency, right? So the only thing we ask is that you come ready to transform and to be even more of a light in the world. And I do this because I love meeting people, and I love sharing, and I love helping people break through that thing that they're just not seeing. And also, there are some people that become students and clients through this work. But it doesn't matter to me. If you do or you don't, either way, totally awesome. I'm really excited to meet you and to serve you, right? So that's it for now, y'all. And once again, if you put any questions in the chat room, I will be really happy to respond to that. If you want to join us, again, that URL, let's find it back here, and I'll leave it up for you. DanielAaron.com/apply, right? And remember, knowing isn't enough. We have to do something about it. So if you're feeling like, hey, you know what, I could use this, then go for it. I really encourage you to do it, because the Lord helps those who help themselves. Very little happens unless we act, unless we take a step, right? So let us help you. Let us serve you. We would love to do that. All right. If you got any other questions, you want to reach me really easy, Daniel@DanielAaron.com. Thank you so much for tuning in to this and for tuning in to what is possible in your life. See you soon.